Sponsored by Barrage Coffee. It's veteran owned and operated by Kyle Early and his crew. I can't thank them enough for their help and sponsorship. All right, we have retired Navy SEAL sniper for 26 years as a senior chief, also CEO and founder of Naked Warrior. I'd like to thank you, William Branum, for coming on the show. And I know we had a little technical difficulty there for a second, but we worked it out, and I'm honored to have you on, brother.
I like technical difficulties because, number one, I'm not good at anything technical. So it makes me learn something. That's just like, it's a problem. So let's figure it out. And also, maybe I can talk to Kyle at Barrage Coffee and maybe try it out. I like to support veteran-owned companies. I mean, I have one, so I like to sort of pay it forward and help other veterans that are out there. So,
absolutely.
By the way, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It's an honor for me to have you on, and I look up to you guys and follow a lot of what the Frogmen do, and total badasses in my eyes.
We're just regular folk.
I like to start the podcast off on kind of like, what's your daily routine? You know, where you're at today. I know you live in Hawaii, I believe, but what's your daily routine in like living by the ocean, man? What's it like?
So my daily routine, it generally starts the night before. And if I don't set myself up for success the night before, it doesn't matter what I do in the morning or what the plan of the day is. If you set yourself up for success the night before, you stay up late watching YouTube, and I'm certainly guilty of it. Maybe have an extra cocktail or two, maybe whatever, and not set yourself up for success and like set that wind down time in order to go to bed on time, then you're really failing for tomorrow if you don't set yourself up today. I mean, you know, it's in the military, I learned that I'm not a morning person. I mean, I already knew that before I joined the military, but everyone wants to get up early and start the day and let's get after it. And I don't like getting up early. So what I would do is I would set myself up for success the night before. I knew what I was going to do. I would leave my clothes out. I would put them on the ground, and I still do this today, depending what the event is. Maybe put my clothes out on the ground like I'm going to put them on, especially if I'm traveling, having meetings abroad or whatever. And get up in the morning, like clothes on, like ironed everything, you know, the night before, button up, maybe hit some coffee and get out. But give myself enough time to do it in a, you know, with a little bit of cushion, because there are always things that are going to happen that you're not expecting. So I'm prefacing that with, so I generally get up around between 6 and 6:30. The house that we have now, I am fortunate that it, you know, the whole back of the house where the bedroom is faces east, and it doesn't matter if I want to sleep in, the sun comes up and it beams directly into my bedroom. We don't shut the curtains or anything else. So it's an automatic alarm clock. So it's like waking up naturally. So get up. The first thing I do is I go make coffee. But while coffee's being made, the hardest thing that I do, other than just standing there, because it takes me a long time to like, for I'm beat up. I'm older than I look. And inside I feel, you know, like I'm 26, but I'm a few years older than that. And so I drink 2 8-ounce glasses of water. So about 16 ounces of water, like right away, just like gets everything moving. You know, someone told me that you should start your day with 30 ounces of water because your body dehydrates throughout the night. Your brain dehydrates. Your brain is, you know, it's mostly water. And if your brain becomes dehydrated, even by like 1 or 2%, it becomes more brittle. And then you're more susceptible to TBIs and things like that. Your brain doesn't work as efficiently. So, you know, keep it hydrated because, you know, there's all this electrical current happening in your brain. So keep that thing hydrated and hydrate the body. And then, you know, I follow that up with coffee, 1 or 2 cups, generally within the first probably 30 minutes to an hour. I check my email. Generally, I look for sales, because I'm trying to grow this business and you know, looking at what maybe I posted or how I've marketed, you know, what has happened on my side of it, and try to figure those things out kind of early in the morning. And then I also have a day job, and so I'll go generally Sometimes I'll do a podcast around 8 in the morning. And after the podcast, like we're doing now, I'll go into an office. I'll do a day job and then continue to work on Naked Warrior Recovery, in between doing my day job. And then I come home and I maybe do another podcast in the afternoon. And then spend time with the family, have dinner, do my nightly routine, and then go to bed. I also shove a workout in there generally in the afternoon. Sometimes I do it in the morning, depending on kind of the schedule, but that's sort of a day with me.
That's a lot going on, man.
It is kind of a lot, but I'm like, what do other people do with their time? Like if I'm not, I'm always doing something. And, I also do I have coaches that I've hired, business coaches. So I do at least one day a week. I'm with a mastermind group to learn how to, run a business, because, I spent 26 years in the Navy. They didn't tell me how to run a business. They didn't tell me how to be an entrepreneur. They didn't tell me any of these things. I was a very good, I'll just say soldier. I was a very good SEAL. But I was good at that. I was good at, leading people, even though I had lots of failures along the way in my leadership capabilities and performance at times. But I also learned from that, and I had some great successes as well. So, but they didn't teach me how to really connect with people. And they also said, don't advertise the nature of your work. So that kind of printed a message in the back of my mind. So now I'm out of the military, and I'm not supposed to talk about that I was a Navy SEAL back then.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So there's a little bit of reprogramming that has kind of gone on.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, the Army definitely didn't lead me in the right way. I took a total different path. But I like to take a little step back and ask the guests, where you grew up, what was your foundation growing up, and how was it, and did that inspire you to join the Navy to become a SEAL? Anybody in your family serve or something like that?
Yeah, so I am originally from Meridian, Mississippi, or just outside of Meridian, Mississippi. It's a small town. Meridian's a little bit bigger, but it depends what you're comparing it to. Meridian was kind of a metropolis compared to really where I grew up, and actually I was in the Boy Scouts, and because I went to a county school and lived in the country, they would call me country bumpkin. I mean, bro, you're from Mississippi. You're from Meridian. And it's this weird, dichotomy between if you're in the big city of Meridian versus, Collinsville, you're so much more of a hick. And so I was, heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. I became an Eagle Scout. My sort of mentors growing up from TV, if you will, were John Rambo. He was I think a Ranger, and that series has gone on for 30 years, I think. And John Wayne was a Green Beret in Vietnam. Chuck Norris was part of Delta Force, and he drove dirt bikes that shot rockets and things like that. I watched Kung Fu theater, so I wanted to be a ninja when I grew up. And so all of these things sort of perpetuated me to want to be some sort of a commando. And so I always knew I wanted to be part of some sort of small elite-ish. I didn't want to be big army, big everything else. And hold on, I got a call that I have to decline.
No, you're fine, man.
I didn't want to be like everyone else and join big army and just be part of this big green machine. I wanted to be part of something smaller, more agile. And I didn't really understand. I didn't know what, special forces was back then, because there were no movies really outside of, the ones that I had just mentioned. But I knew I wanted to be extraordinary, even though I was an average. I would even say my attitude, I was below average, because I grew up very poor, and than other people. And so I judged myself based off of what other people could do. And later on in life, I found out that people thought that I was much better. I had a higher opinion of me than what I actually had of myself, because they thought that I was faster and stronger and smarter than what I believed that I was. And I mean, my GPA in high school was a 2.33333333, just because I didn't apply myself. And maybe I also had some ADD in there as well. But I always took the advanced, like the AP classes as well, which were harder. But I took those because girls were in those classes. Of course, I want to like be around a bunch of good-looking girls, and I'll maybe I'll work a little bit harder. I don't know, like whatever motivates you, whatever kind of gets you going. So I was always, I was hunted. I wasn't a big fisherman. I just wasn't good at it, but I was an okay hunter. I would go with my grandfather every weekend of hunting season and freeze my butt off out hunting deer and turkey. I was also shot while turkey hunting once upon a time by my great uncle. And
Really?
so, yeah. And I had no intention of telling that story, but it just sort of came out. I told you have to drive me or I'll just start going.
No, you're fine, man.
So while I was in the Boy Scouts, someone told me about Navy SEALs because I said, I want to be, I don't know, something. I want to fly F-14 Tomcats, the movie Top Gun, and, be John Rambo because I like running around in the woods and hiding and doing that stuff, playing capture the flag or whatever. And I ran into a guy, went to the National Jamboree, and our troop from Meridian merged with another troop in Alabama. And the kid was a really great swimmer. He was super smart. He was an Eagle Scout also. And he said, yeah, well, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL and I'm going to fly F-14 Tomcats. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. First of all, what's a Navy SEAL? And so he explained it to me. They're like, small elite group. They shoot guns, they blow stuff up, they jump out of airplanes, and they scuba dive. And so I was super interested in scuba diving. And so that's why I really went and they're the best. And so
were you a good swimmer?
Why I went down now people believe that SEALs are great swimmers. I am good enough. And I know I posted something today that said good is the enemy of great, because it is, but I will never be a great swimmer. I was good enough and I'm comfortable in the water. So just as an example, there's a charity event coming up this weekend, and I know we're recording, but it's coming up the weekend of 7 August in New Jersey, New York, where I think there's going to be around 150 SEALs and other veterans and first responders and patriots we're going to do a 2-mile run with some flags from one park to another. Then we're going to jump in the Hudson River. We're going to swim out to a barge in front of the Statue of Liberty, do 100 push-ups and 22 pull-ups. Then we'll jump back in the water. We'll swim to another barge in front of Ellis Island, do another 122. Then we're going to swim to Lower Manhattan and get out and do another, and run to the 9/11 Memorial, do another 122, and then we'll put flags on the 9/11 Memorial. I did that event last year, and it's about 3 miles of swimming. I do not like swimming. I'm not great at it, but I do it anyway because it's hard and it's a challenge and it's for a good cause. But I'm not a great swimmer. I'm good enough. I mean, I say I'm not great. I can power through anything. I can go forever. I'm never, ever comfortable when I'm swimming. I just do it.
Wow. I don't think I can swim 50 yards, to be honest with you, without sinking.
I can swim a long way. I just don't like it. It's like hard work. And that's just part of just doing hard things. Like, when I go out and I do it and I train for it, I feel amazing when I finish, but the entire time I'm doing it, I'm like, why am I doing this? This sucks. Just do it anyway. And, there's always you can quit. You can just turn back. You can stop now. You can go to the beach. You can, I can't, I have to finish. So you can't listen to that noise in your head that's telling you to quit. You just have to keep going. Okay. Yeah. 2 more strokes, let's get to that other, that thing on the beach. Let's keep going. Cause I'll swim like the length of the beach, or I'll swim out to a buoy or an island or something here in Hawaii and then swim back. And of course I'm always thinking shark in the water. So I know that where I swim, some people that do the swim often out there, they said on the backside of this little flat rock island, there's a shark lives there, and he just sort of hangs out. And when you swim by, he just sort of looks at you and, continues on. So I for sure, it might, from the time I was in buds until even today, I'm like a shark, I see shadows in the water, or it's just all in your mind. But, I certainly have that fear, and I just have to like deal with it.
Yeah. I don't know if I could deal with it, to be honest with you. What was life like being a Navy SEAL? I know a lot of people, I know the audience that watches, they're intrigued by them. And, what was life like being a Navy SEAL?
Well, so I joined the Navy to be a SEAL, and it still took me 3 years of failure before I finally got to go to BUDS, to SEAL training. So I joined the Navy. I went to boot camp. I went and I took the SEAL screening test. They call it something today. And I failed it. I failed the push-ups. So I did the swim. It's I look at the test now and I'm like, that's a super easy test. How could I have failed that once upon a time? I actually failed it twice. So you swim, and then you have a 10-minute break where you dry off and you put on, long pants, boots, and a t-shirt. And then you come back out and you do push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and then you do a 1.5 mile run. Well, on the push-ups, I think you had like the minimum score, and you never want to shoot for the minimum. You always want to shoot for the maximum. The minimum score was like 52 push-ups, and they're very strict push-ups. And I think I got to like 41 or something. And I was like, I can't go anymore. I mean, I totally quit on myself. I probably could have gotten the rest of them out, but I didn't train for it. So I failed it. Then I graduated boot camp, and I went to my technical school for the Navy, like in MOS in the Army. And what that was called gunner's mate. And the point of being a gunner's mate is you work on these big gray ships out in the ocean, and a gunner's mate works on either the missile launcher or the gun mount that part of the defense system of the ship. And so I thought, guns, that's cool. Small arms. There was 1 week of small arms out of 6 months. Most of the course was electronics, pneumatics, and hydraulics. And then looking at kind of, some specific systems that are in the fleet. And so I had lots of opportunities to go take the screening test again, and I didn't. One, because it was cold up in north of Chicago in the wintertime, and I don't like getting up early. So I would have had to get up at 4 to go be on the other side of the base to take the test at 5, and then deal with the cold and getting there and getting back. And I was just lazy. And again, I was being a quitter. I was quitting on myself. So we got close to the end of the course at Gunner's Mate A School, and it was time to pick orders. And I was high enough in the class that I could pick a set of orders, or I could say, I want to go to BUDS and I want to go right out of here and then go take the test and pass it, or fail it and go to the fleet. But instead of what I thought I could do is I could take another set of orders, go to another school, and then get in better shape and then go to BUDS. Well, when I took those orders to go to this other school, I was going through the school, and I'm about 2 months from graduation. I say, hey, I want to go take the SEAL screening test. They said, why? Because I want to go to BUDS after this. And they said, you can't, because you took the school, you have to go to this ship in Yokosuka, Japan for the next 2 years. And then when you're done there, then you can apply and go to SEAL training. And so I was like a little bit devastated, but okay. Well, I said, well, what if I fail out of the school? They said, you're still going, like, you can fail if you want, but you're still going to go to that ship for 24 months. So not being a quitter, even though I've already told you that I kind of quit on myself a couple of times there mentally. Mm-hmm. I went to Japan. I finished the course. I went to Japan, and in the military, you call up a detailer. I don't know what you guys call them in the Army, but we call them detailer, and they're the people who are in charge of each MOS or each rate, and they tell you where you're going to go next. And I had spent my time on the ship. I had been all over, Asia and the Middle East. And, at the 9-month mark, I called up my detailer and I said, hey, I'm going to drop a package to go to BUDS. And he said, that's great. You can do that, but I'm not going to approve you because your NEC, your MOS is too critical to the Navy. And because I went to that 4-month long school that put me on this ship, I became too critical for the Navy for them to release me to go to BUDS. I mean, that's at least what the detailer was saying. Mm-hmm. And so I continued to, pressed the issue, and I went and took the screening test again, and I passed it. I failed it the first time. I took it again because I had like a little bit of ego. I took it with a bunch of other guys, and I crushed the swim. I crushed the push-ups, the pull-ups, the sit-ups. I crushed everything. I beat everyone on the run. And the other guys that were taking screening tests, they were taking screening tests. It's the same test. The standards are just different. They're lower. They're higher for SEALs. That's the highest standard. But for EOD or a diver, it's the same test. You just have lower expectations. You can run slower. You can do less push-ups. You can swim slower. And so when I came across, and for the SEAL test, you're running in boots and then in long pants, and the others you're running in shorts and sneakers. So I beat everyone across the finish line. I beat everyone in every event. And I'm like, I got this. And I failed the run by 14 seconds or something like that. Something stupid. Like I could have made it those 14 seconds easily. And I was like, I got this. I'm like kind of cruising. I'm good to go. And I failed it. So I had to go take it again, and the next time I passed it. Like, I'm like, I can't take chances there. Yeah. So I passed it the next time I took it. So I failed it twice. And then I passed it the third time and the fourth time and the fifth time that I took it. But what I found is the detail. So I just did all the paperwork. I did all the medical, all the everything. I submitted my package to the SEAL detailer, and I would call them like once a month. And I'm like, hey, can you guys, how about orders or whatever? And they're like, your detailer has to release you. So I had letters of recommendation. I was just continuing to add stuff to my package, and my detailer kept saying no. Finally, the Chief of Naval Operations, and for the people who don't know who that is or what that means, the Chief of Naval Operations, he's the most senior guy in the Navy. There's only really two people that are more senior to him, and that is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. So he's at the top tier of leadership in the Navy, in the military. And so he came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan. He didn't go to any other ship while he was there, only my ship. And people kind of prepped me before. They were like, hey, man, you should ask the CNO. He's a common sense leader. Maybe he'll let you go to BUDS. And so he came to my ship. He had CNOs call. Does anyone have any questions? Like, he had an agenda to put out his message. And then after his message, he's like, anyone have any questions? Yeah, you right there. He's like, I said, I joined the Navy to be a Navy SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go, but my detailer won't let me go. I totally threw that guy under the bus. And I think I deserve a chance to go, but my detailer won't let me. He said, I'm too critical to the Navy. And I think I deserve a chance to go. And so, I mean, it was all me, but that's kind of the way it has to be sometimes. And he turns to my commanding officer and he said, is he a good guy? My CO, I told my CO I was going to ask the CNO prior to, and I was just an E4, nobody really on the ship. But he's like, yeah, he was the sailor of the quarter this quarter. So the CNO turns back to me. He said, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date, which was 6 weeks later. And after that, the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy came down. He took my social. He said, the easy part's over. I tried it. It wasn't for me. Good luck. And I was like, oh, you went to that. I mean, I thought higher of him because he went, and then he's like, I didn't make it. It wasn't for me. And so he went there, he quit. No big deal. Most people quit. It's just part of the process. And he found another path in life. But from the time he wrote my social down, he's like, good luck. I called the SEAL detailer 2 hours later. I was in Yokosuka, Japan, and they were in Washington, D.C., so we were 12 hours off. I called them. I said, hey, have you heard anything about my orders? He's like, what's your name? Branum. Yeah, mailed your orders out this morning. So this was 30 years ago, and maybe a little less, 28, maybe 30, whatever it was. And from the, I don't think with today's technology, I could have gotten my orders any faster than we had there were only landlines. There were certainly no cell phones. There was no internet. The internet didn't exist back then. And so that's how I got to go to BUDS. But as a SEAL, and I failed a lot in BUDS, but sort of the daily life of being a SEAL, we have in the SEAL teams, we have a 24-month cycle where we do 6 months of sort of professional development where you go to breacher school, sniper school, free fall school, jump master school. You go to, you build up your basic qualifications. And then for the next 6 months, as a platoon and as a task unit, you do unit level training. So BUDS is very basic. After BUDS, it's called SEAL qualification training, where they teach guys like the absolute bare bones basic of like land warfare, combat swimmer, which is diving, CQC, and just other land warfare skills like fast roping, climbing ladders, doing contact drills like fake gunfights, shoot, move, and communicate. And so when you get into a SEAL platoon, you're working as a team. Like a platoon may have just come back from deployment, and they lost half their guys because, you still have to move around in the Navy and maybe go to training or, go do some shore duty, take some time off. And then an influx of new guys come together. And so you're building that team back up from the foundation. So we go learn, you start basic and then you do very advanced levels of close quarters combat. You start basic, in land warfare, and you become, experts in land warfare. I need to plug in my computer because it's going to die in a minute.
No, you're fine, man.
I thought I had it plugged in. That's way better. Let's see what else. So we learn how to drive, armored vehicles. We learn how to drive Humvees off road in very, in terrain that looks like Afghanistan. We drive Humvees in, urban environments. We learn how to, have contact drills, which are gunfights in Humvees on a range that's like 180, maybe 270 degrees of field of fire. And so, figuring out how to shoot, move, and communicate on land and then doing it in a vehicle, it's very complicated. It's very complex. It's very simple. You keep it as simple as possible, but you can do some very complex movements and maneuvers when you're doing that. We practice, putting leadership down. We practice, having the junior man lead an assault or lead a mission, or, in the middle of the mission, we kill all the leadership. And now, all right, figure it out while carrying your, the bodies of your leadership out. So we add extra stress into that. It's unit level training. It's basic and it becomes very advanced. So that's for 6 months. And then we do 6 months of, depending where we're going to deploy, Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, South America, whatever it is, we do some very basic or actually more advanced skills that are specific to the mission that we're going to go do. And then we deploy for 6 months, and then we come back and we do it all over again. And that's sort of the life of a Navy SEAL. No,
that's interesting, man. I've always tried to find YouTube videos of BUDS training, and it's just the whole. I would say the whole United States is intrigued by them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
and it's interesting because when I was going through, there was no YouTube, there was no nothing. And the only thing that when I was on that ship in Japan that I kind of had going for me is there was 2 books that I knew about. There was one that was called Brave Men, Dark Waters. The other was Rogue Warrior. And so I read those books over and over again. There was also a Tom Clancy book called Without Remorse. There was a recent, I think, Amazon movie about it. It was a terrible movie. It had nothing to do really with the book. The book was awesome. The movie is terrible. Sorry, Amazon, you could have done that way better.
Absolutely.
Way better. And the other thing is, so I had a couple of guys that quit BUDS that came to my ship, and one of them, their dad was a SEAL. So dad is like, but he had a VHS tape, if anyone knows what a VHS tape is. And it was about SEAL training. Mm-hmm. And it had about 20 minutes of Hell Week in there, and then about 15 or 20 minutes of pool comp, which in my opinion was harder than Hell Week. For me, I thought Hell Week was easy because all you had to do was just go. And you had to, it wasn't easy. That's a little bit of a misnomer, but there was no real decisions to make. All you had to do is not quit. All you had to do is keep going. All you had to do is try to win the race. And I was fortunate enough to find myself in a boat crew of guys who, like I said, Hell Week sucks, but who were always pushing the envelope to be in the front. They wanted to be the fastest boat. They wanted to win every race. And it wasn't something that they talked about. It wasn't like high five or anything else. It was just like, there's a gap. We're going to fill that gap. There's a boat, like the boats are kind of, because you carry around this boat on your head the entire week. It's the most miserable thing in the world. And anytime there was a gap between the boat that was in front of us and the boat that they were behind, we would come up and we would fill that gap. And we would always make our way to the front. And so kind of the lesson that I learned there is like, you're suffering the whole time, but it's better to suffer in the front than it is in the back. It's like, because it just sucks. So suffer in the front, don't suffer in the back. You can be awesome or you can be mediocre. So even though you're going through SEAL training, you still can take things to another level. Yeah, I didn't quit, but I wasn't awesome. Yeah, I didn't quit and I was awesome. There's a different mindset that you can sort of take from things like that.
Yeah, you might
You
already
asked me a question. I don't even know if I answered it.
No, you answered. So you might have already answered this question, to be honest with you. What was the toughest part of BUD/S in your opinion and why?
So I'll go right back to that statement that I just made, I think pool comp was the hardest. And so what pool comp is pool comp is really about, you've already made it through Hell Week. You've made it through the grind where they're like really trying to wash guys out. The next step is to see if you have some attention to detail and see what your true comfort in the water is underwater. So I admittedly have micro lungs. I don't like holding my breath for a super long time because it's hard to do.
I hate it too, man.
And but we do it anyway. And so what pool comp is you have this double hose Jacques Cousteau style regulator. You have I forgot what kind of life jacket you have on. You have twin 80s on your back, and it's not like you go on a scuba dive with like a BC buoyancy compensator and you kind of put a little air in to make yourself a little lighter. You let it out to be a little. It's not like that at all. It's like tubular nylon straps, and it's double D rings, and you're like everything has to be like the loop has to be like 3 fingers wide, and the bitter end has to be this big, and you have to do all these little adjustments when you put the tanks on and when you take them off, and there's a certain way. And so what pool comp is you're crawling across the bottom of the pool. You have a weight belt on with fins and mask, and you're breathing just fine. And then an instructor comes along, he dives down and he rips your mask off. He rips your hoses out of your mouth. He, flips you upside down. He's ripping everything off. It's sort of like underwater jujitsu. And maybe he'll tie a hose in a little bit of a knot. And so it's like an exhalation knot. So there's a certain procedure that you do. You can't just take your tanks off and fix it. If it's an exhalation knot, you have to figure out how to get to it and untie it. And then because you still have air coming in. And so you do this for about 20 minutes and you get yourself fixed. You get, okay, I can breathe again. It's all on a breath hold. You're on the bottom of the pool. And so they continue to make it harder, and they, more knots, and they wait for you to take a breath in. You're crawling on the bottom of the pool. Everything is fuzzy because you're just open your eyes in the chlorine, and you can see the shadows, and you can see the instructor, his hands right here, and he's watching you take the breath in. I'm like, bigger breath, bigger. I was actually holding my regulator in my mouth so that he wouldn't rip it out before I had a good breath. And then he rips it out, ties it all in knots. And then, you have to, when you can't start fixing anything, you can't resist. You just have to be on your breath hold, being, beat up, jujitsu'd underwater, flipped upside down, and then when you land, then you can fix it. You have to wait for him to finish. And generally I was already out of breath before he was done. And so, which is terrible. So I would go through the procedures, and then I could take my tank off and fix untie the knots. And there's a process. There's what's called a whammy knot. And the whammy knot, you're not supposed to be able to get undone. But someone told me once upon a time, if there's a bubble, there's air. So I would work until I got a bubble, and I would get a little bit of air. I'm like, okay, I can keep working. And that's how I finished pool comp. You're not supposed to do it that way. You're supposed to get to a point where you can't untie the knot. And then you're sitting on the bottom of the pool, and then the instructor's watching you. Ask, permission to go to the surface, and then he gives you permission. Then you have all of these procedures that you have to do before you're allowed to go to the surface. You ask permission, he comes down, he gives you permission, you go through the procedures, you put everything the way it's supposed to be. Then you ask to go to the surface, and then he gives you permission. Then you take your weight belt, you put it across your tanks, you kiss the bottom of the pool, and then you exhale all of your air like that. You open your mouth, exhale everything, and then you go to the surface. But you don't go by yourself. You wait for the instructor to take you to the surface. And when he's taking you to the surface, he gives you a good old punch in the gut to let all of that air, whatever air could still be in your lungs, out, because, you know, you're dealing with Boyle's law. So as you decrease pressure, the bubble grows. So if you're like at the bottom of the pool and you blow out compressed air, as it goes to the surface, it's going to get bigger. You don't want to be holding your breath when you go to the surface. You'll embolize yourself. That will certainly ruin your day. So they make sure that you don't have any air in your lungs. And honestly, that was probably the hardest event for me in buds. Like that was, I know at least 60% of the guys that are SEALs, they will tell you the same thing, that pool comp was probably harder than Hell Week.
Dude, I just got major anxiety just listening to that. I'm going through it. Good.
I get a little anxiety too. Like, oh my God. But so that was some of what I got to watch on that VCR tape. Is, you know, I watched guys in Hell Week a little bit, and I watched guys doing pool comp, and so I mentally had a little bit of an edge over other guys, but you know, at the end of the day, you still have to do the work. So and it was work. So even though I say it was like, you know, Hell Week was easy, it's not easy. It's hard. It's a grind. You don't sleep. You're cold and wet and miserable and shaking uncontrollably, and this thing is on your head, and you're miserable. But you don't have any decisions to make. Your decisions are quit or keep going and be awesome.
How much mental is it versus physical, in your opinion?
I'm going to say 50-50. I mean, only because, I mean, it's 100% physical. Like if you don't have the physical, you don't have to be gifted. I'm not gifted in any way. I'm average Joe. And there were guys that were at Buds that were amazing athletes. Like, you know, they didn't ever get tired. Like they could swim, they could like fly around the O course, you know, on these soft sand runs. They were at the front. They're like chatting while they're like running, no big deal. And I'm in the back going, just trying to like barely, not even keeping up. But you know, they didn't like the cold. They didn't like having that boat on their head. They didn't like failing. They didn't like being told that they sucked. They didn't, because they've been successful in everything that they've ever done in their entire life. So, and then, you know, kind of for me on the physical mental side of it, you know, I'm in Hell Week, I, you know, found myself in this boat crew where these guys were like, they were all average. There was no superstars in the group. Everyone was average. But we all had a common desire to be in the front of everything and win and not feel sorry for ourselves. And there were times where I certainly felt sorry for myself, where I kind of wanted to slow down. I wanted to, you know, my lungs are burning, my guts are burning, my legs, my whole body's just burning, and I'm trying to just keep up. And I kind of feel sorry and I want to slow down. But those guys that I'm surrounded by, they're not slowing down. They're going faster. So I have one decision to make. I can either quit or I can try to push the boat a little bit faster. And so that's the mental piece that you juggle with. That's the mental piece that, you know, is it physical or mental? Do you quit or do you keep going? Do you keep going and be mediocre, or do you keep going and being awesome? And so, you know, those are the, you know, there's only two things that you really got to think about. And so, so that's the mental side of it. And you can apply that to anything in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're, you know, if you're a race car driver, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a business owner, if you're making coffee, if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can apply those same principles into every stressful, hard thing that you do in your life. First responders, everything that you do, it's you know, mental or physical. It's all mental and it's all physical. It's 100 of each. So it's not really a 50-70, a 50-50. It's 100-100.
Yeah, I would agree with you. what lessons did you learn while you were in the military that you still carry over to today? And did you leave some back that you're like, I learned them in the military, I don't need to convert them into the civilian world? Or did you take everything that you learned from the military and apply it to your everyday life now?
So that's a great question. So, one of the things that the military does a poor job, and I talked about it. I don't remember if I talked about it while we're kind of live right now or earlier, but they do a poor job of transitioning from the military. And so when I left the military after 26 years, I was lost. Like, I no longer had a mission. I no longer had a team. I no longer had a purpose. I didn't know what was next in my life. I mean, I certainly could have planned for it, but I didn't. And so I thought I had a plan, but my plan wasn't thought well enough out. I thought kind of, if I build it, they will come. If I have a certain skill set and people recognize that skill set. And so I won't have a problem making money. I won't have a problem having a purpose. I won't have a problem. Well, I did, actually. I had a kind of a big problem. I had a problem with, I carry around some baggage. And some of it is from work. Some of it is from, we'll just say, toxic relationships. And so my medicine to kind of deal with that baggage, to deal with this noise in my head, there was some pharmaceuticals. I don't even remember what they were called. But there was also a tremendous amount of alcohol that I would consume. And I would pretty much just drink myself to sleep at night. And so that helped, I knew that I was not where I wanted to be. I knew I was still trying to figure out, like, what's next in life. What's my purpose? How do I do it? What's my mission? I don't have a team. I need to figure out a team. I need to problem solve all these things. But I live on a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So I don't have that physical, sort of camaraderie out here as much as I would be if I lived somewhere else. And so I was just sort of, suffering in silence, drinking myself to sleep every night, really kind of killing myself inadvertently. And then I discovered CBD. I mean, I'd heard about CBD and I knew that I wanted to try it, but it was, I'm a child of Nancy Reagan's War on Drugs, Just Say No. And, I'd heard about CBD while I was still while I was still in the military, but I was afraid of it because it's connected to marijuana, at least, from what I knew. So I still maintain a top secret clearance. Let's not jack that thing up by failing a drug test. And so a year after I got out, I was in Virginia doing some stuff, and I had lunch with a friend, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go see if I can find some CBD while I'm here in Virginia." And because I think it's probably better than whatever we have in Hawaii. I don't really know. I don't know the industry or anything like that. And so he said, "If you want CBD, I've got some at home." A company sent me some stuff to try. He's kind of like an Instagram influencer. And actually the call that I got earlier was actually from him while I was talking. I was like, "I can't talk to you right now, buddy." I'll call him after this. But so that night I took it, and maybe I was a little less pissed off and I slept a little bit better. Who knows? But what I noticed is after about 30 days of taking, CBD, I like to say water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living at 210 degrees. So there were triggers in my life that didn't take much to hit that 212 degrees. And what I noticed is over time, I went from over that 30 days of CBD, went from 210 degrees to 205 to 200 to maybe 195, maybe 190. So my fuse got longer and let things I still have triggers. I still have things that piss me off, but my fuse got longer. My quality of life got a little bit better. But it wasn't right away. It's not like you take it and the world is better. I took it and I'm like, oh, maybe. Okay, maybe. It was these incremental changes, just degrees of change. And, 1 degree of change is the difference between, steam and boiling water. 1 degree is the difference between making tea and running a locomotive. It's the difference between making tea and, nuclear power, because it's all about that one more degree is all you need. So every day I was maybe like 1 degree further away instead of being closer. So when I would have these triggers, it would help me to not react or respond or hit that boiling point quite as quickly. And so when I was able to do that, I learned I didn't have to rely as much on alcohol to turn that noise off in my head. Then I was able to start controlling that noise. And then I stopped taking CBD, and I started getting closer to that boiling point again. I took another brand. And so I was like, maybe there's something to this. I don't know if it's placebo. But I'm very interested. And I started like kind of digging into the industry. Then I was at a business conference, and I'll get to your answer to actually answer your question in just a second.
You're fine,
to a business conference. And, there was someone in the CBD industry, and I kind of tracked her down after like sort of this Q&A thing that went on. And I was like, hey, you're the CBD girl, right? She was like, yeah. Hey, I'm interested. And she was like, you want to do A to B, B to B, B to C, whatever. And I was like, I don't know what those letters even mean. And so she was like, okay. What I was trying to do is get her to hire me because, so that I could learn. And she was like, why don't you just start your own CBD company? I'm like, I can't do that. She's like, you're a Navy SEAL. Oh, okay. So she basically pulled my man card. And so she's like, I'll help you. You just like kind of point you in the right direction. I'll give you a little education. Go do your own thing. And so she's like, I don't have time for you. Go do your own thing. You can do this. And so it's still a brand new industry. CBD only became legal after the passing of the Farm Bill, December 20th of 2018. So it's a brand new industry. So what I learned when I started like digging into this is like most of the companies out there are they're just get rich quick companies. The FDA has done a bunch of spot checks, and they found that most companies either don't have the CBD they say they have in them. They have high levels of heavy metals, mercury, solvents, arsenic, lead, things like that. They have high levels of outside the legal limits of 0.3% or less THC. So high levels, illegal levels of federally of THC. And so I was like, dude, the industry is dirty as F. And so what I did is I went out and I looked for the highest quality suppliers in the market. And the suppliers that I have now, I haven't found anyone, and I continue to look that provide this is the highest quality of CBD out there. There are other companies that have high quality CBD, but the suppliers that I use, it is the highest quality. Everything is third party tested multiple times. So when the oil is extracted from the hemp plant, it gets third party tested from an independent lab, third party test to make sure that it's good to go. Then they take the oil and then they turn it into the different products, and then that product gets tested again to make sure that it's it meets in the criteria and it has everything that we say that it has in it. So other companies might do that first piece of it where they test the oil when it comes out of the plant, but they don't test it after the fact. And so there could be some sort of contamination that happens in there, and so that's what we do. We one more step, a little more unconventional. And so as I went down that road, let's start a company, let's start Naked Warrior Recovery. Part of it is, we carry this ego around that is, we wear it around as armor. And sometimes we carry baggage around, and it's not, it's our baggage, it's other people's baggage that people put on us. And so what I found out, and when I kind of started doing some good introspective thinking, I found that this ego that I have to take it off before I can find like some healing and kind of fix my own wagon and get my mindset right. And so that led me to, that was sort of the kind of the purpose of the name for Naked Warrior Recovery. We all have to get naked. We have to like take the ego off and put it in the corner, be a little bit vulnerable, expose ourselves to like some criticism. Who cares? And so that mindset that I had to develop is actually a part of what Get Naked is about. And so what I've done is I've taken Naked because everyone likes to get naked.
Absolutely.
We all love it. That's the way we started in this world. So I've turned naked into kind of a SEAL mindset, and it's kind of 5 ways to think like a Navy SEAL. And these are things that you can use in your everyday life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. So the N stands for never quit. And I don't mean like never quit smoking or drinking or, porn or whatever, or, never quit trying to get out of an abusive or a toxic relationship. Those are things that you should be like making every effort to remove from your life if you can. And what I mean is, like, if you have something that's worth starting, it's worth finishing. And it doesn't mean, you taking it across the finish line. So you start it, it's hard. Yeah, that's part of the point. That's why it's worth doing. There may be a reason somewhere in there that it's not worth continuing. Maybe you need to shift your focus to something else. That's fine. That's not quitting. That's just shifting and continuing to do the work. But sometimes these tasks, these projects, these life goals, these whatever they are, they seem, unattainable at times, especially when they get really hard. You're like, is this really worth doing it? It was worth starting. It's probably worth doing it. And so, what you have to do is you have to break that thing that you're trying to, those goals, into small pieces that are bite-sized pieces. They're snackable size at times, and just set yourself up for success every single day, and complete that one thing that you need to do. And maybe it's 2 things, or maybe it's going to take you an hour. Maybe it's going to take you 10 minutes. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to finish that thing that you have to do. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built every single day. You don't eat an elephant one bite you eat an elephant one bite at a time, but you have to eat every bite of that elephant in order to eat it. So you have to do it every single day. You have to take the bites. You have to build it. You have to continue to do it. And if you're not doing that, then you're quitting. So just set yourself up for success. Never quit. The N, never quit, and execute one thing of that insurmountable task every single day. And at the end of a year, you will be impressed with your own self from where you started to where you are today. But you have to do it every single day. Never quit. The A is accept failure. And I'm wearing a shirt. Okay. So where are we at?
I like it, man.
Accept failure. And because failure is really the foundation of success. And this is really answering your question. Like, what sort of mindset, what lessons did you learn, in the SEAL teams? And this is really, really it. 26 years I've distilled down into 5 things, and the acronym is NAKED. So A is accept failure. Failure is the foundation of success. If you think of the most successful people in the world, you think, I have forgotten that guy's name 100% of the podcast that I do. I should write it down so that I never forget his name. Thomas Edison.
Yes.
I wanted to say Eli Lilly. I wanted to say, Albert Einstein. Thomas Edison, he discovered 10,000 ways to not create the incandescent light bulb. So you could look at it as failure, or you could look at it as learning. So he failed more than 10,000 times. Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player of all time. Mm-hmm. He's missed more than 3,000 shots in his career. And you know what he did? Anytime he missed a shot after the game, he would go to the gym. He wouldn't celebrate even if they won. He would go to the gym and he would work on that one shot that he missed. Like, what went wrong? How do I never miss this shot again? Steve Jobs fired from Apple, the company he started. Elon Musk fired from the first company that he started. Ford filed bankruptcy 7 times before they actually got, Henry Ford, before he finally got to the Ford Motor Company. So these are examples of, great people who have created greatness out of failure. They failed, they learned, they grew. They failed, they learned, they grew. They failed, they learned. And so you have this, this wall, this thing in front of you that you want to, get around, you want to accomplish, you want to defeat. And it's just this giant wall. And so what you end up doing is you fail, and you fail again, and you fail again, and you build this ladder that allows you to just hop over the wall, and then you are ready to attack the next wall. And it's going to be failure again, but you have to accept that failure and move forward and learn from it. The K is kill mediocrity. We live in a world of, we live in a mediocre world. We've got instant gratification. We got Amazon Prime. You can have ice cream delivered to your house in 20 minutes. All you got to do is hit a button on your phone, and everything arrives. It doesn't work quite like that here in Hawaii, but that's just the way it is. And so we just live in a world of mediocrity, and and there's a saying that's like mediocrity is a slow death, being mediocre, and it's true. Like you should do everything in your power every single day to do it 1% better or 0.0% better. And it doesn't matter what it is. You pick one thing and you just do it better. And then you do it better. Maybe it's getting up in the morning. Maybe it's getting ready at night. Maybe it's going to bed a little bit earlier. Maybe it's running a little bit faster. Maybe it's returning an email, the same day versus 2 or 3 days later. Maybe whatever it is. Maybe it's, these little things, and the little things add up, in backpacking, and certainly it doesn't really fit in the SEAL teams where, ounces are pounds, but ounces are pounds. Like you gotta, like you're trying to take weight out in order to carry more weight or more gear. So everything weighs something, everything costs something. So you have to kill that mediocrity in your life in order to be great or be successful or get where you actually want to be. Change your mindset. Instead of doing it good enough, do it as great as you possibly can. The E is expose your fear. So, everybody's scared of the dark. There's something that goes, bump in the night. That's not the kind of fear that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fears that live in the back of your mind, in the back of your brain, that no one ever wants to talk about because you don't want to be judged. And so in combat, oftentimes fear turns into action. And in everyday life, and you've been in combat, you've certainly been afraid. And when you had to jump into action, you jumped into action. But there are people who they get stressed out and they freeze. But other people, every day you're driving down the road, someone walks out in front of you and you swerve out of the way, or you hit the brakes, or someone runs a red light, you swerve, you hit the brakes, you take evasive maneuvers. Fear caused an action. Those are not the fears that I mean. I mean the fears that, like, I'm afraid to return a phone call because I may be judged. I'm afraid to, I get an email from someone who, a toxic personality. I'm afraid of what the media is telling me. I'm afraid of whatever. And these things just sort of end up controlling you because they live back there. They're pulling your little puppet strings, and you never talk about them because you don't want other people to judge you for whatever reason. And so what you have to do is you have to reach back there and you have to pull those fears out, and you have to expose them to the light and expose them to the world. Because once you're able to do that and you're able to expose those fears that have been controlling you for your entire life, or however long you've had those fears, now you are in control of the fears. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a perfect plan, but if I have a business coach and a friend, and he says that fear does not exist on paper. So if you take a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper and you write down the things that are bothering you. So this guy is a billionaire. And so I'm going to take everything that I can from him. And he's like, I get stressed out about silly stuff all the time. And what happens is I have to pull over at a Starbucks. I pull out my pen and paper. I order a coffee. I sit down and I just write out all the things that bug me and that are just driving me nuts. And once they're on paper, they're exposed to the light. They're exposed to the world. They're no longer circling around in the back of my head. And now they're not that bad. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to even just take one fear, start with one. You don't need all of them out there in the world. Just start. It's baby steps, one at a time, small victories. Pull those fears out, expose them to the world, share them with someone, share them with yourself, say it out loud, say it to your, but expose them. Don't let them control you. You pull it out and you're like, hey, and once you do, you're going to have a little bit of freedom. You're going to have a little bit of relief. You control that fear now. It doesn't control you. And once you're able to control your fears, you expose them, they control you, or you control them, they no longer control you. And the last piece is the do the work. So it's never quit, accept failure, kill mediocrity, expose your fears, and do the work, because it's all work. Nothing is free in life. Everything costs something. And oftentimes it's work. Do the work at night. Get a good morning routine the night before. Get up in the morning when your alarm clock goes off. Finish the project that you started. Finish that small victory. Get that win under your belt. Don't end the day with a loss. Do the work, because it's all work and it's all worth at the end of it. I talked earlier about, I go out and I swim and I do these things. I actually tow my daughter on a surfboard behind me sometimes out, and we explore a little island, and then we come back, and it's a tremendous amount of work. But the way that I feel after I've done the work, I feel amazing. I feel like I can go do that again, but you never get there if you don't start doing it. So it's all mindset. So those are the 5 things that I would say that I brought really from, I have a lot of other lessons learned, but those are kind of distilled of 26 years, things that I learned to kind of fix my own wagon. And then I use them every day. I even have I have them printed out, and I can share them with your audience here. If you go to a website called 5 sealsecrets.com, drop your email address in there, and I will send you a link to this document that I've created. It's about 8 pages, and it just it goes through each one of those. It's got some cool pictures and things like that. So people can go check that out.
I'll also put that link in the description so they can just click it and it'll go right to it. So what is the best thing about becoming a SEAL? And if there's a listener that's thinking about joining the SEAL community or wanting to go in the Navy to become a Navy SEAL, what's the best advice you can give them?
I think the best part of becoming a SEAL is you're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn about, what you have up here, and you're going to learn how to push yourself farther than you ever thought you possibly could be pushed. And then when you get there, you're going to realize that I can go farther, and I can go faster, and I can go better. But you have to never quit. You have to accept the fact that you're going to fail. You have to accept, do all of these things that I just said. But once you get there, you have a team, you have a mission, you have, you have purpose, you're doing great things, you're having a good time. It's still hard work. Everyone knows the sexy part of being a SEAL, and that you see in movies or in TV shows or things like that. It's not all like that. There's a tremendous amount of work and grind and pain that goes up to that. Even when you get to the SEAL teams, people think that BUDS is the hard part. BUDS is really the easy part. When I graduated BUDS, I didn't have the mentality that it's going to be harder now. I thought, okay, it's all going to be great. It's not. It's going to be even harder now that that was just a selection process. That was just see if you have the grit and grind and a little bit of brain power and attention to detail to join a SEAL team. Once you get to the SEAL team, that's really when the hard work happens. But being in that organization, you learn to you're going to be pushed every day by guys that are senior to you, guys that are junior to you, everyone around you. Everyone is going to expect you to be better today than you were yesterday. And so there's a saying that says, "Earn your trident every day." In the SEAL teams the only easy day was yesterday. So, but you're also pushing them. So as an organization, you're always pushing one another to be better. You're expecting me to be better than I was yesterday. Okay, awesome. And I'm expecting you too. It's if we're out on a run or a swim or whatever, competition is a good thing. It's healthy. And if I beat you and I'm old, I'm the old guy in the platoon, God help you, because you will not live that down. And I'm going to try to beat you. Maybe you had a bad day. Sorry, bro. You're going to live with that for a long time. So anyway, that was one of the great reasons or things about being in the SEAL teams.
No, that's awesome. I know some guys that were, I posted that I was going to have you on. They're like, man, I want to do that so bad. And it's I'll ask them the question, and there you go. There you go. There's your answer. Because I have no clue what it's like to be, and from just the underwater part, I don't want to do it. I'm just not a big underwater guy.
Right. There's other soft organizations out there that guys can be a part of. And you don't have to join the Navy or go to BUDS to have an experience like that. I have friends that have programs. As a matter of fact, the guy that just called me earlier, he is a lead instructor for a program. It's a very expensive program, but really it's really focused on men and taking them to the next level. Maybe you're kind of mediocre in your life and and so it's called the Project, the Modern Day Night Project. And if anyone is interested in that, you can hit me up, and I will put you in contact with the people who run that organization. Again, it is an investment, and they screen you. And if they don't think that you have it physically or mentally, you won't be accepted to even pay $14,000 to be part of the program.
Wow.
And if you quit, you don't get your money back. But it's part of like making a brotherhood, because men, we suffer in silence. We don't share how we feel. Women are much better about getting that stuff out there in the world. Not all, but women as a whole are better about sharing what's on their mind and what's bugging them. Men, we're much more about compartmentalizing and suffering, and I'm the king of it. So and that's part of like exposing your fears. And maybe you do it with a friend, maybe you do it with someone you trust, or maybe you just do it with yourself and just write stuff down that bothers you and expose it. And as you get more comfortable exposing it over and over and over and showing your, being a little bit more vulnerable, being a little more naked, it becomes easier. It's a hard thing to do. It's work. Do the work. It's a hard thing to do. But once you start doing it and you start mastering it, you control the fear, and the fear is no longer controlling you. But like I said, there are programs out there that can give you a buds like experience. Some are more expensive than others. I know a few organizations that do that, and I do some stuff with one of them. But I'll leave it at that. If people want to be a part of something like that, you don't have to join the Navy. You don't have to make that big of a commitment. There are things where you can just do a financial commitment and take amazing lessons learned out of it.
Yeah. And if you got the number, if you want to give it to me later after we quit recording, I'll actually put it in the description as well, or they can contact you however you want to go about it.
Yeah. So on my website, nakedwarriorrecovery.com or nw-recovery.com, my CBD website, there's a contact button, and it'll bring up an email. You can send me an email. I get all of the emails. If I have an assistant, get it. I still have the ability to see it. But also my Instagram, which is Naked Warrior Recovery, or at Naked Warrior Recovery, all one word. If you DM me, I will generally reply.
Okay. This is might be a little touchy subject, but it's how the media is. There's everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a TV, and there's this girl that went through. I don't know if she went through buds training, and if she did, did she get her trident, or what is she doing? Can you talk about it? Because some guys have hit me up about that and asked me, you seen on the internet,
So a female. So there's two females that I'll talk about. One, I believe she was a midshipman with the Naval Academy. She went to, and so she will be an officer when she graduates. The Naval Academy, it's a college with very military focused, and she went to what's called mini buds. And what mini buds is, it's a week long. There's like a hell day in there. And it's for officers. They apply for it, and depending how they do in mini buds, it helps them sort of in the ranking of if they want to become a SEAL or not. How they rank in the class, and then that goes into sort of this sort of adjudication period for their academic performance and physical performance, and then they get ranked, and then then they get chosen to go to buds, because to go to buds right now is super competitive. I mean, when I was still in the teams and I was, in many leadership positions, I had guys working for me that were, rocket scientists. They had, multiple master's degrees. I had an actual doctor who was just a regular enlisted guy. It's very competitive, physically and mentally. What if you can bring something better to the table, like a foreign language or the ability to, do something that other people can't, it increases your chances of going to buds. You're from physical performance to mental performance, and they want guys that they believe will make it through the program. And so mini buds is a part of that on the officer side. and there was a girl from the Naval Academy. She made it through mini buds, and the media made it look like she like graduated SEAL training. She did not. She just graduated mini buds. It's 1 week long, and because she wanted to try it out and see. But she does. But from what I've heard, is she does not intend to go to buds to be a SEAL. She just wanted to do it. Like that's something that they do during their summer. They go live on a ship. They go, become part of an aircraft wing. They go maybe, if they want to fly and do things like that, or go to mini buds. And so that was one piece of it. The most recent female that I've seen is she graduated from SWCC. So it's Special Combat. Let me write it down. SWCC, Special Warfare Combat Crewman. And it is in they're boat drivers. So we in the Navy have some pretty high speed surface crafts, some pretty badass boats, and they get us where we need to go. They're used by special forces, and a girl just graduated that training. It's in the same compound as buds. They do some of the same stuff. I mean, it's very physical. They do a lot of stuff in the water, in the ocean. They still carry boats around similar to us, but it's not the same training. I mean, we've had guys quit buds and then go become, SWCC. And that's what the girl, she graduated, SWCC training. It doesn't make her a SEAL. She doesn't get a trident. She doesn't anything. She becomes a boat driver. And it's not an easy school. But that's, so it was an incredible feat because people quit, that training as well. And, but yeah, there are no SEALs that are women at this time. I'm not saying that there will never be, but currently there are no SEALs that are women.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to clear that.
Or in the program that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah. Cause you hear that and you know how the news plays it up and it's like, holy shit,
Yeah, no.
It's something I really wanted to ask you because I can't foresee a woman walking around with a trident. You know what I mean? Like you said,
and I'm not saying that they can't.
Yeah.
Or won't one day, but
yeah, it's I don't even know what to say to it. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a SEAL. I don't know how men feel about that kind of deal, but I know I've asked some guys in the SF community and the Ranger community, and they're for it if they don't lower the standards. You know what I mean? Which is
correct, right?
I feel
you can't lower the standard for anyone.
Exactly,
the standard is there for a reason. And I even talked about that earlier. You should never go for the minimum standard.
Mm-hmm.
You should go for the maximum, like max everything that you can do. And I didn't have that mindset when I first started. So I've had 26 years or more of learning life lessons and things like that. And so, one of those things that you learn in the SEAL teams is like, the minimum standard is really not an option. You need to go for the maximum, try to push yourself beyond everything that you possibly can. The minimum standard is there because we have to have some sort of standard, but everything should be exceeded at every opportunity. Yeah.
And now I want to shift a little gears and talk about Naked Warrior recovery and what all types of CBD you have, if it's nighttime gummies, or just talk about the certain ones that you have and what they do, and if there's drinks involved.
Yeah. So what I didn't mention earlier is I talked about that whole 210 degrees, 212 degrees, and getting further away from that boiling point. Something else that I also got from CBD is I got a lot of pain. I got a lot of injuries. I got a lot of stuff wrong with me. And, many of these sharp pains that I live with and I deal with every day, they just became less sharp. They just became a little more dull. And so, I would do movements where I'm already grimacing and I'm like, it's going to hurt. But I would after I was on CBD for, a month or two, it wasn't stabbing me through the heart anymore. It was still pain. I still had to deal with the pain, but it wasn't just taking this pencil and jabbing it into a body part. It was a dull pain instead of an incredibly sharp pain that was even more immobilizing. And so that was another kind of a side effect that CBD had for me. Like the pain was less. It's not gone. It's not cured. CBD doesn't cure anything, but it reduce chronic inflammation. It does help with sleep. So what CBD does is it affects the endocannabinoid system, which is this giant neuroreceptor that all mammals have and fish. And it's connected to every other system in your body. So it's connected to your endocrine system. It supports your digestive system, your immune system, your central nervous system, your respiratory system. It's connected to all these systems in your body. And sometimes that endocannabinoid system gets out of whack because you're not making the endogenous cannabinoids that all mammals make that feed and support the endocannabinoid system. So all mammals make anandamide, which is also known as the bliss molecule, and they make 2-AG. And so these endogenous cannabinoids feed the endocannabinoid system, but sometimes we don't make enough cannabinoids to feed it. And so that's where CBD comes in. It's sort of like this super multivitamin for your endocannabinoid system. And it feeds. So let's just say your ECS is like a giant door with 10,000 locks on it. And you're only making enough keys, endogenous cannabinoids to unlock half of those locks. So the door is never going to work properly. It's never going to open up properly, and it's never going to support the system and let the things work the way that they're supposed to work. So what CBD does, it's shaped like those keys, and you take it and it goes in and it helps unlock the rest of those locks so that the door can work properly and help your body heal itself. CBD isn't healing anything. It's not, but it does, help reduce pain. It reduces chronic inflammation. It is used as a pharmaceutical for a certain childhood kind of epilepsy. It was illegal up until the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. So there's research coming out every single day about how CBD works, how it affects the body. All I know for me is it helped improve my quality of life. It helped me drink significantly less. It helped turn off the noise in my head so that I could have good self-talk and change my own mindset. It's helped with pain for me. I'm not a medical professional, but so the products that we carry are predominantly broad spectrum. So it has almost all of the minor cannabinoids and terpenes from the hemp plant. There's about 120 out there, but we remove the THC molecule because people are concerned about passing drug tests and things like that. But we maintain, the majority of the terpenes, which are basically essential oils and minor cannabinoids. One of the terpenes that's in the hemp plant is called pinene, and pinene has been shown to increase neuroplasticity. So, people with TBIs and things like that, if your brain is a little more placid, you're less, and I talked about earlier, like hydrating the brain, the more placid it is, the less and less fragile it is, the better the ability to maintain and not be as deeply affected by a TBI. It also, if you do have TBIs, it helps to kind of keep your brain more placid to help, those neurotransmitters find new routes. And so that is an essential oil basically that's in the hemp plant. And so I would say if you're going to do a CBD product, you either want a full spectrum, which does have trace amounts of THC in it. And I do have some full spectrum products, but most of my products are broad spectrum to still maintain those minor cannabinoids and terpenes to really help the body kind of work synergistically with the body to help it, heal itself. That's not medical advice. It was just a little bit of an educational thing, but we have oil droppers that you put under your tongue. We have some soft gels that have this nano emulsion technology. So basically you agitate the oil, you put a pharmaceutical grade emulsifier in there. It keeps the droplets of oil that you're consuming at about 1/25 the size of a regular drop of oil. And the purpose of that is it helps with the bioavailability. So oil and water, your body's, 70% water. So it doesn't absorb oil all that well. But because of this sort of nano emulsion technology, the oil droplets are super small and it's easier for the cells to absorb the CBD oil. We also have some topicals. One of our topicals has it's a lotion and it has some menthol in it as well. I've got some others that are like it looks like a glue stick, and those are, I like using those for doing more like myofascial release. So I've got like a painful calf where it's like just locking up on me all the time. I'll put the CBD on it, and then I'll take the edge of that container and I'll just kind of dig it in and do some sort of myofascial release around the muscle to kind of increase circulation, get the CBD in there, because your skin also has its own sort of endocannabinoid system, endocannabinoid receptors. So you're still getting, the CBD and those pieces into the endocannabinoid system, even if you're only using a topical. I've got some bath bombs, which smell amazing. My daughter loves taking them. I have a sleep formula that it's got 25 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of melatonin, and 5 milligrams of CBN, which is another molecule that is known for a sort of a sedative effect. And I'll take 2 of those. Like I get sort of stuck and like busy and my brain is still going at, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I take those, like 2 of those about 30 minutes before I want to go to bed. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from going to bed, because like, it just like, boom. Okay. All right. Go lay down right now. Stop. Whatever you're doing right now, doesn't matter. Go lay down. I can push through it. And I've been able to push through other things, but with this particular product, I'm like, I don't like get my second wind. I'm like, I just keep getting tireder and tireder. Like, so I go to bed.
Now, is it a deep sleep, or is it just like you go into dreaming, or is it just like,
I mean,
wake up and feel refreshed?
From the time I lay down and go to sleep, I'm asleep within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of without it, I can lay there for a super long time thinking about stuff. I'll put on I sleep with headphones on a lot and listen to like some different soundtracks, I guess, that help, in theory, they're supposed to help you kind of your brain to get into more of that theta sort of dream state.
So you're not listening to Rob Zombie right before you go to sleep?
I could, but I've not at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Let's see what else. I've got gummies that are really good. And the thing about CBD is it affects everyone differently. Like I can't say that one product will, be great for everything, because that's why I have, I think 12 different products right now. And because it depends, maybe you want a full spectrum product. I have a full spectrum product for you that tastes pretty good. Most full spectrum products taste like dirt. I have an energy drink because small amounts of CBD actually will help boost energy, and it has about 75 milligrams of caffeine. I have a person, so I also sell to like gyms and some other stores, and there's a jiu-jitsu gym in Utah that sells some of my products, and the feedback that I got from them is one of the students, his wife takes Adderall, and when she started drinking the CBD energy drink, she was able to completely get off of Adderall. She's like, I can focus the same way that I can on Adderall with your drink, but I don't have the jitters at the end of the day. And so she's completely off of Adderall, and all she uses is that CBD energy drink. Again, not medical advice, not a guarantee. That's just like other people process CBD differently. And some people can take a 10 milligram gummy and be awesome and get the benefits that they're looking for. Some people, like myself, I have to take significantly more, but it's a little bit of trial and error, and try it out and see what works for you. And again, it's not like, you take it and the world is better. You don't get high, you don't feel anything. Sometimes if I have like that stressor, that thing comes in and like, I'm like, woo, like it like sets me off. I'll take CBD. I'm super pissed off. And 10, 15 minutes later, I'm still mad, but I don't have that same level of anger and like stress and anxiety coursing through my veins. Like I've come back down. Now I can like actually deal with whatever the thing is that's bothering me.
And we'll also put a link in the description to go to your website as well.
Awesome.
And did you want to do the discount code now, or?
Oh yeah. So I'm offering you guys, all of your listeners, if they've stayed to listen this long, we've been going a little while.
Yeah.
I think the discount code is STEELE20, STEELE 20.
Yes, sir.
And you go to, you put things in your cart. I've got some, some super greens. I've got like fasting bundles. So you're saving some there, but when you bundle stuff together. But when you go to the checkout, there's a little thing for like discount code, put Steel 20 in there and you'll save 20% off your entire order.
Awesome stuff. I got 2 more questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up. I'm big on the 22 a day. You are as well.
Yeah.
I have some buddies that go through some stuff. I've had, we talked about the incident about a buddy of mine who actually killed himself and kind of haunted me for a while. So what's your outlook and take on the 22 a day for the listeners listening? How can we help with this? It's kind of a pandemic, I think. You know what I mean? 22 a day times 3.
So much more of a pandemic than whatever this weird thing that we've got going on right now is.
Exactly.
It's not sexy. It's not driving fear into people, so no one talks about it. But when I talked about earlier, sort of like, what's my mission? What's my purpose in life? What's my what am I doing now that I'm not, I don't have this badass team with this badass mission. I had to find a new badass mission. And my new badass mission is 22-0. And what that means is we have 22 veterans that take their lives every single day. We've lost more veterans to suicide over the 20 than we have in 20 years of sustained combat. That is not okay with anyone. And when I really started, looking at it and kind of digging into that a little bit, I realized that, my dad is one of those 22. My dad took his own life after I had graduated SEAL training. And so he falls into that whole 22 a day. He had some stuff that he was dealing with and going through and didn't want to be here anymore. And so our mission at Naked Warrior Recovery is 22-0. And some of the way, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, how do we get there? Like, if it was easy, it would already be solved. So I'm still trying to figure out, how do we get there? And the way that I'm trying to help right now is, I give veterans and first responders and other people of service who serve the nation, serve the community, I give them a 30% discount for life, because I know CBD has helped me. It's helped change my life. It helped me have, better self-talk and things like that. So CBD has helped me as a modality. It is not a cure. It's a modality. In trying to get off of the pharmaceutical route, where that doesn't actually fix you. It just masks the noise in your head, or masks the pain. The pain is still there. And the other piece is really the get naked mindset. And it's about, never quitting, never quit on yourself, never quit on your family, never quit. Accept the failures that you have in your life, kill the mediocrity that you have. Because when you start going down that road of failure and mediocrity and fear, it's a quick spiral to the bottom. And if we can change people's mindset, change the way that people look at life, help people develop goals, they'll have a purpose, they'll have a reason, they'll have a mission to continue going and never quit. And I believe that is a step in the right direction to reduce that 22-0.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of funny, when I reached out to you to come on the podcast, we were chatting on Messenger, and I told you I had a friend that changed tires for me, and I said he was a Navy SEAL, and you asked me what his name was. His name's Jeff. Won't throw his last name out because
most people who say they're Navy SEALs are not Navy SEAls.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So I had to know his name. And that was super funny because Jeff used to work for me. Jeff is a beast. And, yes. But, I remember in 2007, I think I was doing, my task unit owned all of Anbar province in Iraq. And so we had 9 different outposts, and I would do sort of this battlefield circulation. I would go to each place, and in the beginning they were stationed at a base, and they had a Marine base around them. So they had Marine security, they had all this other stuff. They lived on the base, and then they did the work that they did out of there. And then the Marines pulled out and all went to Afghanistan. They're like, the war's over for us in Iraq in 2007. We're going to Afghanistan. And so I would go out and I would visit these sort of outposts, and they're just alone and unafraid. They're hiring local Iraqis the local Iraqi militia to kind of be their, their force protection and things like that, because they had no more American force protection. And so I'm like, hey, fellas, what do you need? Money, infrastructure? Do we need equipment out here? What do we? And so I was talking to Jeff one day out there, and I think the only thing that Jeff eats is meat and like Twinkies or something. Like there's no greens in his diet anywhere. So I actually have some super greens that Jeff could drink. They taste pretty good. Most greens taste like dirt and lawn clippings. There's no CBD in them. They're just super greens. And but yeah, that's one of the things that I remember the most about Jeff is he only eats meat and nothing the color green. So that was. He was a stud. He's a beast.
Yeah, for sure. I got a funny little story, and then we'll wrap it up. I was talking to a guy, he was our jack man, one hell of a jack man. His name's Andy Turner. We were in Bristol, and the car's coming down pit road, and we jump off the wall, and Jeff kind of looks back at me and just gives me this look, but just keeps going to the right side of the car. Bust off 5 lug nuts. I throw the tire on, boom, boom, boom. I noticed him kind of like do a hop around the front of the car. And normally it's like three steps, I believe, but he does a hop and he's already back down. Hits the left side, lugs off. I throw the tire on, he hits 5. And the car, like when it comes out, it's trying to get around the other car. So it kind of fishtails. He don't get up. He just like looks at me. And the rear of the car almost hits him. And he looks at me and goes, "Mother, I just blew my Achilles." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I did it as soon as I jumped off the wall." He's like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we get him back over the wall. He takes his shoe off and he's got a lump under his damn heel. I mean, just nasty. And not only did he not complain, like most men would be crying. I mean, you see it on the NBA court all the time, but he rides back 3.5, 4 hours from Bristol all the way back to Michael Waltrip Racing. And he's laughing, giggling in the car, and it was just a funny story, man. But he is one hell of a beast, great guy, and now he's doing dentistry stuff. So
that's
really cool dude.
Crazy. I can't imagine that, but yeah, good for him. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you one more thing. A lot of listeners, they're big on guns and stuff. What platform and what platform do you carry if you conceal, open carry, and why?
I like a Glock 19 is my favorite, and mostly because I learned to shoot a pistol. I actually learned to shoot in buds before they taught us how to shoot a pistol in buds. I'm a good rifle shot. I grew up hunting, but I didn't know how to shoot a pistol. I didn't know how to manage recoil or anything else. And so there was a buddy in the class. He was, former firearms instructor. He did all sorts of other stuff. He did jujitsu before jujitsu was cool. And so I was like, "So Marco, can you teach me how to shoot a pistol? Because I suck." And that's also part of like exposing your fears. Like just be brave enough to ask for help. And he's like, "Yeah, but you're going to pay for, the gun rental, you're going to pay for the ammo, you're going to pay for the use of the lane, all this other stuff." So we went to a shooting range in San Diego, and he gave me like uber duper super safety brief and beyond anything. And I still use those in like how to hold the gun, how to shoot it, and all this other stuff. And his gun of choice back then, and this was 25, 30 years ago, was a Glock. And he would go to these like different pistol competitions, and people would call it like combat Tupperware and all this other stuff. So now a Glock is like, there's Glocks everywhere. But, that's what I learned to shoot with. And then in work, in the SEAL teams, we use the SIG P226. Mm-hmm. But I would switch back and forth. The triggers are so different. But, today it's 100% Glock.
That's awesome. I got a Glock 19 myself. I love it. I'm also a big FN guy. Love them guns. But man, I am truly honored to have you on. It's been funny. I enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure everybody that listens is going to enjoy it. And I hope everybody goes to his website and order some CBD. I'm definitely going to, and I'm also going to go to some guys that I work with. They use some different CBD stuff, and I got some local places up here. I'm good friends with a guy who owns a shop, so I'll definitely pass the word to them as well.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm all about helping out brothers, and getting them going, man.
Supporting veterans.
Absolutely. If you'll hang on just for a second, I want to ask you one last question. I'm going to end the broadcast, and then
Okay.
I'll let you go, brother. I appreciate it so much.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
coming
me.
on.